Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
K-Tall.
What's that?
That's also what's up. I learned that in Spanish class.
Oh. Yvette, does that work?
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Estoy bien.
Oh, great. Now they're going to have a whole episode in Spanish.
And I'm not going to understand a word. All right, we're back.
Yep. And today we're talking about identity and trust. We kind of started talking about it a little bit last week, and we decided we wanted to build on it. Yvette, I feel like you kind of can get us started on this. I feel like you were kind of leading the way a little bit, like with trusting and being free in who you are, to show who your actual identity is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will start in for the people who is listening, with a question with who you trust to show who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that you can really trust to show who you really are. Because I thought about that when I came here, and I had to stand up with my new identity in some way. And I just found out that it was so hard to find people that were not trying to judge me or were trying to remind me who I was, instead of trying to see who I was at that moment and all that, So I think it requires a lot of trust to show who you really are. It's not like just your confidence. It's also feeling safe, to show who you are with your wounds and your fears and all that. So I encourage you to, guys, think about those places that make you feel safe. For me, it was a prayer meeting, for example. People that give you that, that you trust them to be accepted with your good things and your bad things. And then once you have them in your mind, remind you every day to keep them in your life.
Wow.
And I want to start with that because I think it's really important to have those places where you can go when the world feels so heavy, the judgment, and when you are just falling into the things that we are used to, believing the lies that others tell about us, or when you feel too scared of being loved the way that you need to, because you feel unworthy, because how you just believe who you are and it's not true. I want to start with that. And what do you think about that?
Wow. I love that. I love that you asked a question. Think of who you feel comfortable with. Who is it that you can go to, that that you have the freedom to just be you? And it does revolve around safety. And for you, it was started for you. I feel like you have more places like that now. I also think maybe you have more places that will accept you for who you are now because you accept yourself more than you did. I think that is something that maybe is a process that we don't always notice right away, the ability to go out and to be yourself. Sometimes that's the hard part. I think of when you mentioned last time, you mentioned the Sisters of Life and how one of them was out and she wears her full habit as a nun. So they go out and that's what they look like always. And one of the priests that my family grew up with is a CFR. They're Franciscan friars, and they wear a gray habit. They wear it all the time, everywhere they go. And they have these, they have a hood that they'll sometimes put on, and they have those giant rosary beads that are on the outfit. And I could remember when I was younger and he would come out and we would go to dinner or something. And I could always remember he was so comfortable in his skin, so comfortable. And we would be out at the diner and it was like a show. Everyone would be like, are you a real monk? People would come over and he'd be like, I'm actually a friar. But it was such a statement of identity, a statement of no, this is the life I chose. This is who I am. And to go publicly like that. I remember being young and being oh my God, everyone's looking at him right now. And he didn't care at all. And if they came over and wanted to have a conversation, he made time to have conversations with every person. It was interesting. But I think there's a comfort in him, his own identity and a safety and this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And, you can like it or not.
Yeah, and that comes from a relationship with God. I think the most But I think it ties definitely into the previous episode of like freedom and being seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the people you start to practice to be your true self with or reveal yourself to them is the ones who you feel seen by. You know, if you don't feel seen by somebody, you might not be willing to share parts because then they might, like, it's like the opposite effect almost, right? You know, you feel like they don't see you for who you are, so you hide who you are even more rather than being like, I feel very seen. I felt very seen when Janine and I met, which I think that you can relate to as well. So it was like, I was like an open book, you know, whereas maybe if I don't feel seen, I'm going to hide.
I mean, I might be wrong completely, but I think Moses had a stutter. And I feel like
that's why he couldn't speak. Aaron had to speak for him.
And that's the craziest thing. God chose the man who had a stutter to lead the Israelites away from the slavery. And it's almost like that's how comfortable you have to be. You have to be comfortable with that trust in God, just like how, you know, our family friends friar, I guess. Family friendly friar, I guess.
Father Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could say his name.
You can. He doesn't care.
Just like Father Glenn was willing to go out in, you know, full friar outfit to the diner. Just like how David, even though he was, you know, small, was willing to step up to fight Goliath. Just like how Moses was willing to take that staff and split the ocean when God said to, or split the rock to get the water when God said to. It's almost like you got to be comfortable enough in relationship with God to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be always like that. Like, for example, I like Mary Magdalene too because of that unworthiness that she felt when she sinned again, you know, and she felt like, oh, now that Jesus has sinned again, what I believe is my true self, now I'm unworthy of his love and he's not going to accept me or he's not going to love me. And she was scared of that. And Jesus said, like, look at me, you know, because he wanted to make sure that she saw that he was seeing her. Not the girl who went to the bar again or the one, any of that. She saw her and she saw the soul. You know what I mean? So for me, what I like about when I went to Chosen is like all the times that Jesus wanted to really reach to someone and to bring him back to himself, he always says, look at me. And I think it's because when they look up and stop watching themselves and stop looking for the others and they just look and focus on his eyes, that's when you find your identity in the way that he sees us. We found our identity. It's not in the way that the world sees us. You know, and that for me was like a big change because, for example, like with relationships or things like that, like, for me, honesty is like, you know, this feeling of being naked in who you are, for good and for bad. And, I think you can also not build that trust that you require in relationships or in friendships or whatever, if you don't allow yourself to like show up, well, like, understand me, like naked, and with that trust that they will just stay, you know. And I think I start believing that there are people out there that will stay there, and you can trust that they will just like not run away when you show yourself or wherever. Because first Jesus showed me that trust, you know. So I think that the story of Magdalene and the way that she just went back to Jesus and with the wounds and with like the mistake and all that, and the way that Jesus just saw her the way she was, it reminds me that there are people out there that would see us that way. But if we trust enough to just feel comfortable in our skin, and I think Jesus is basically the only way to do that, at least for me and my experience.
I think the interesting comparison between Mary Magdalene and King David is like, talk about being unseen. you know,
goodness.
David. I mean, I don't know if I know we kind of like touched upon it last episode, but my like thought was Mary Magdalene had the privilege of actually being literally seen by Jesus because he was physically with her, right? And so she had that, you know, she had the actual spoken word from him and all of that. And like King David just did it on faith. Like David was unseen, not chosen, completely forgotten, and like still had that big faith and still had that confidence to walk in and be like, I am going to face your giant with a tiny little rock and a slingshot. Like, talk about having, like, it wasn't like he had this, you know, face-to-face literal time with Jesus like Mary Magdalene did. He just was so bold and so confident in who he was and because his faith was so big. And like, what a beautiful thing to look up to, you know?
I think you can look at so many of the different Bible figures and have like a similar. First, when Yvette was talking, I was thinking of the woman with the hemorrhage for 12 years, and I was thinking of how she like. It's always like once you see The Chosen, it becomes so visual to you. It's like, but in the story, like you see her like just wanting to get to him. And like really having a full conversation with herself. If I could just touch a little tassel of his clothes, then I'm going to get healed. Like that's all I need. What I find fascinating about her is when she went there and she finally did make that contact with him, she just didn't want to have anything else to do with it. She's like, all right, I'm going to get healed and now I can get out of here. And he was like, who touched me? You know, he called her out in front of, and she was afraid. Mm-hmm. She was like, is he gonna, like, you could see her reaction. She's like, I just wanted to get healed. And I love the way he, again, looks at her and he's like, daughter, like your faith has saved you. Like your faith has made you well. And she just was like, and there's a scene it's in The Chosen when she's just crying because she's like, I didn't think that you would want to sit me. I didn't think that you would. And I think that maybe that's how we approach sometimes with that desperation, with that, like, we want this healing. We want to be seen. We want to be known. We want to be friends. But we put up blocks and barriers to other people because we don't trust them, because we have a reason sometimes not to trust people, because sometimes people aren't very nice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes then we're not very nice. I'll be the first to say, if I find somebody that I'm not trusting right now, my guard goes up, my posture will change, my behavior, like I will like get a little bit straighter, and I will just like, my sarcasm could really start to come and become awful. But that's my own self-defense because I'm human and I don't feel safe with you. So you might get a different version of me, you know? And I don't always feel good about myself after those moments, but those are real moments for me.
I feel like Peter is almost like, not to be like mean or anything, but he's like the pillar of like, I feel unworthy. No offense to Simon Peter, but I feel like in the way that he rejected Christ 3 times when the cock crowed, and it's almost like he had to probably, I mean, he fled from the cross. You see it in the Passion of the Christ, the movie. He literally runs from the place. He's like, it's the run of shame. Mm-hmm. But yet he went for repentance, and he did end up giving his 3 yeses, and then he did end up dying on a cross, well, upside down cross, but according to legend. But I feel like that's almost what happens. It changes when you have that trust in God. It changes the way you trust people around you. It's like it goes from the, denying your identity 3 times to saying, yes, that's who I am 3 times.
Wow. I'm more of like going back to how you said how you are when you're trust or you, like, I'm the opposite. I shut down. Mm-hmm. I'm silent. I'm like, you're not even getting a word out of me. I stand there still and like, I get closed off. But But I think the beauty of like, I'm thinking of all like the characters from the Bible, you know, they are the, like, we still call them their labels.
Mm-hmm.
She's the woman with the hemorrhage.
Mm-hmm.
She's Mary Magdalene who had 7 demons, you know, Matthew, the tax collector. Like we do like still kind of associate them with their labels.
Mm-hmm.
But the really cool thing is like when they do meet Jesus and then he transforms those labels. And I think we still use those labels to remind us of their identity before and like their worthiness still of him, their worthiness still of their level in the Bible, their level in our faith, their level in our history, you know. And it's like the labels can be so negative at the same time, but they also show like the before and the after.
And that's what we connect to.
Yeah, exactly.
We like those identities because they remind us of us. I'm like, I'm the woman with the hemorrhage.
Right. No, it's
and what I also like is like he never rebuilds, but he reshapes us. You know, like for example, I love the way that Peter is a fisher. Like he's a fisher, but he says to him like, "Now you are gonna fish men." You know, like so. For me, it's like a good metaphor of how he reshapes us and use us, like use our identity, and he makes it better. It's not like he fixes, but he heals. And he reshapes and he makes us better in who we are already. You know what I mean? So even him never like he, from like the rejection, like he never rejected their past. Mm-hmm. You know, like he accepted that past and it was part of them, but they just made it better because Matthew was using the things that he was like this, I don't know how to say, but the way he was smart and he knew about the numbers and the letters. He wrote everything. You know what I mean? That Jesus did in some way. Like, so, I mean, they use what they were using, like their skills or part of their identities that they were using it in a bad way. And they started using all those things and those experiences for making something great.
That's
the numbers. Simon the Zealot, for example, the way instead of doing it for violence or things like that, he was using it for protecting the others. I don't know, like Matthew for like with the scripture, you know, like Peter, instead of fishing fishes, he was fishing men. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's a good example of how he even reject our past or the way we do it or our identities. But he shows us how to make them better and how to use everything we have to offer to the world for goodness and not for something bad.
I love this. No bad parts.
He oh my goodness. He shows you how to use your gifts. That's what I was trying to say. It's like they talk about the gifts so much. It's like, you know, of course, Matthew has the brilliance in math, as Yvette said, and then the Peter with the fishing and stuff like that. Peter, Andrew, John, you know, all of them. The Sons of Thunder, they all had that good fishing, and it shows how later on they did use that. Yeah. They did use that when they were rounding up the new Christians, the new Catholics, the ones who come in finally after the resurrection comes, and they go out 2 by 2. And I feel like that's kind of what he does to us. He transforms us and then he sends us out. I mean, I don't know if it's really out by 2 by 2, but he sends us out and we show other people the power of God. And that's what draws them in. And we become the fishers of men.
No, I just want to say I love it. I love the idea of him using our like the parts of us that are not always the best, but he transforms them and he doesn't hate them. He doesn't want to get rid of them. He just wants them to be used for like a better purpose. It's so beautiful and it's so true. It's really true for like parts work and stuff like that. If anyone's into like internal family systems, they always say no bad parts. All parts are good. They're just misguided.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like he uses all for good. You know, what we're saying about Peter and Matthew, like we're saying good things, right? Yeah. Matthew is smart. Peter is a good fisherman. Simon the Zealot is
a good fighter.
Right. Like, so we're saying all these good things, right? And we forget that not that we forget, but there's also like bad parts. Like what I'm thinking of somebody who maybe became an addict in their lives, or maybe somebody who like, I'm thinking of little James, like he didn't heal him. He didn't heal that, you know? So it's like he uses absolutely everything like gifts, not gifts, mistakes we have made, like using it all for good. So maybe the person who used to be an addict, who's not anymore, who's like in recovery, now turns around and uses that negative thing, right? And can make it, can use it for the good, to transform other people's lives, to help other people. Whereas like maybe taking something that was good, like being really smart, and using that to then be that tax collector was then like used for bad. But no matter what parts of us that we throw into the mix with Jesus, no matter what we are able to and willing to give to him, he will use it in any way, shape, or form for the good.
And now that you mentioned little James, like what I saw in The Chosen, like when you see his past, and he was actually rejected because of his condition, and his leg, and with Jesus is the opposite, like having the power to just change that. For example, change the thing that the world rejected for, he accepted and he loved it. And for me, it was an example of how our identity, he was trying to teach us how our identity for him is not in our appearance, is not in like we have to be like the others or wherever, is in what we have to offer from our hearts, our souls, and not from anything else. And I like it how he was rejected for his condition by the world, but not by him, you know, and how he actually saw him special because of that, instead of something that is not good. So for me, it's like a good example of how the freedom of being seen, the freedom that probably little James had, and it has to not be easy, but that freedom of like no rejection, no judgment, no physical conditions that make you unworthy or less, when you are just like focused on the way he sees you and not the way the world sees you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing like, it's getting like caught up in I'm still thinking of the idea of the, taking those parts of us. And like, I could remember when I was young and I would make some choices that I wasn't always proud of, and then like start having some like changes and stuff like that, and feeling like, you know, do you regret those things? Do you regret those times? And I think people ask those questions to people all the time. Like, do you regret? And of course I do regret some things that I did. I'm not going to lie and act like I don't have regrets in that. But I don't regret how maybe it has been used in the now for my own self. You know, like sometimes I think when you do go through it and you make choices that aren't the best choices, it gives you a better chance to look at other people who aren't making the best choices and say, okay, well, you know what? Except for the grace of God, there go I, because I know for a fact I've been there. I've done that. I've been the angry one. I've been the one who, you know, just made those mistakes in their life. And I think it's like there's always the temptation to want to put yourself down for those things. But I love the idea that we're actually like saying, oh, the woman with the hemorrhage, the woman at the well, Mary Magdalene with her 7 demons. Like, I love that we're looking at those parts and saying, yeah, but those are the things that Jesus used in order to redeem them. And I mean, imagine, I don't know all of this, but imagine all of the people that Mary Magdalene could have spoken to from her own testimony. Like all of the people that would have been willing to listen to her. Because I keep thinking of Nicodemus's face when he looked at her. Because poor Nicodemus tried to do an exorcism on her and it failed miserably. And so like when he knew exactly what state she was in because he witnessed it so closely. And then when he ran into her, the way he looked and stared at her, like, is it you? Like, is that really even you? And his like, I feel like just from him looking at her, he converted. In that moment, he was like, okay, if this is done, I want that, you know? And it was like, it was such a cool thing to watch that transformation. And just to know, like, anybody can have it and then use it, you know? I do remember the parts of me that I didn't always love.
I used to be the type of person who wanted to shut the light off. I wanted to, if I made the mistake, knew I made the mistake, made a different choice after that, I wanted to just shut the light off, take that box, take that part of me, and pretend like it never even existed. And then I remember when like, you know, I'm connecting it to meeting people and trusting them and becoming friends or whatever, you know, developing a relationship with someone that maybe didn't know your past. It would be so different before. It would be like, okay, when am I going to reveal like a secret about me? And then, you know, you say it and you're like, do they still love me? Are they going to get rid of me? You know, where it's like, when you have that firm identity and like, yeah, I messed up plenty of times in my past and I'm going to keep messing up in my life. But I can be open and honest about it and confident in it and trusting the person that I'm sharing it with and knowing like, well, if they're not going to love me anyway, then, well, they're probably not, you know, someone I need to keep in my life or whatever. But I think it's like the ability to keep the light on them. I mean, not idolize them, of course. I know we talk about that, but like just to keep the light on like yourself as like a whole, like past, present, future.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think of that?
No, I was thinking about this close experience that I had with relationships with what you said. Like, for example, in my position, there was a moment where I was like thinking with my partner, like when I met him, I was, you know, like I just came back from Texas. I was super high. I was like in Rome, blah, blah, blah. So, and he met this version of me, which is real too. It's a real version, you know, but then after 3 months, I went through a hard week. And what I did was I pushed away him, you know. And when he was like, why you are pushing me away? And I just had to stop with myself. And I said, why am I doing that? You know, and I was just scared. I think I was just scared of showing that there is a real part of me that also cries and that also feels anxiety and that also is frustrated, you know. And I was just so scared of not being seen as this crazy girl that always smiles, that is always, you know, that I show him because that's what I was controlling. He will stop loving me or seeing me the way that I hope I wanted, like I was seen, you know. But I think as I was so grounded in my faith that for the first time, instead of running away and pushing people away from me, I went to them and I was like, look, I'm going through this and this is a real version of me too. And I hope you stay. And if not, it's okay, but I cannot hide anymore. And thanks to that, the trust between us, between my friends, between my partner, between my mom and my sister, the honesty that was in that conversation created a huge bond between us. And actually, they start sharing with me also wounds that they had related to that. So I just learned like that I could do that because I was grounded in my faith, because I did a huge work with God in USA here with myself of accepting that honesty, of accepting my wounds, of accepting who I am, and of accepting that I'm worthy when I'm like Mary Magdalene at the end of the stage, but I'm also worthy when I'm on the first stage, and I'm also worthy of him when I'm in the middle, because that's the freedom of being seen in him. That's a kind of freedom of knowing that no matter what, he will stay.
This is beautiful.
Amen.
I think this is the perfect way to end this episode.
Yeah.
Wow. I loved it. All right, tiny miracles.
My tiny miracle is this Easter week, spring break off. I mean, it might sound a little cliche, but we had off starting on Holy Thursday, and just the opportunities and the things that we did. I mean, it was just like things that I did, the people I got to see, the things I just, the time I got to just like relax. I don't know. This has been like such a beautiful 8 days so far of break. And yeah, I'm so thankful.
Yeah. My tiny miracle is like the sun. It's been, it hasn't been that warm, but it's been more sunny. And Marissa and I were saying how like we like to walk outside, and because there was so much snow here in New York this winter, like we didn't get to walk outside as much. So just like different times of being able to take walks with like different people. I'm thinking particularly of my husband and my dog Daisy. Like I love going for walks with them in the morning. And so that's my tiny miracle.
I love it.
Oh,
I think my tiny miracle was the ice cream that I got in Barcelona during Easter, because I was waiting for an ice cream for Easter week, but I couldn't go to the place where I wanted. And then once I just gave up, and it's like metaphoric, but once I just gave up and I was like, okay, we are not going there because nothing is working out to just go there. Suddenly on the last Monday of Easter, we just ended up in Barcelona because of Yes. And there it was created the space of time to just go there and ask for my favorite ice cream. And once I was eating it, I was like, you know what, how metaphoric, once I just gave up and I was just like trying to control the day, the time that we could all go there and all that. It just happened in the perfect way, because perfect weather, perfect day. We were all relaxed, no work, and unexpectedly.
Wow.
So for me, it was a tiny miracle.
I love that.
For me, it's probably my brother's Minecraft world. I don't know, I've just been playing it a lot, and it's so much fun.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week. And always remember, there are people there in the world that really want to see you. Trust them.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Later, alligator.
Haha. My favorite one.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Hasta la próxima.
See.